Hey, folks, what is up? Glad you're here with me. My name is Kevin, and this is the Chord Progression Podcast, a My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 to Today podcast, and I'm glad you're with us because we've got a lot of shit to talk about today in the world of rock music, because, to be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff that happened over the past week that we gotta talk about. Mostly because of the fact that there's a good amount of music that came out, and the fact that I finally got to watch The Dirt, the Netflix movie on Motley Crue, and of course I gotta talk about it. But before we get into anything, yes, this is the shameless plug section of our program, so I gotta start talking about our stuff. This is the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 to Today. So this is basically, run off of all that stuff. If you're not following us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, come on, guys. You have to be following us on those platforms, so I expect you to be following us on those platforms as well because, well, let's just say that's some good stuff in all honesty. On top of that, if you're not subscribed to the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day YouTube channel, because one thing I talk about today is the new Prevail album, Trauma. Yeah, I did a video review on that as well for everybody, so go check that out on YouTube. It comes out tomorrow, so looking forward to that as well. Also, if you're not enabling our Alexa skill on your Alexa or Amazon Alexa device, Alexa, stop. Mostly because I am working with the Amazon Echo in my room right now due to the fact that I normally shoot this in a basement. But I'm shooting this in my room right now, mostly because of the fact that, yes, I actually have a guest today, like I did on episode 2 with our fan Evie. I've got our friend Jacob, who will be calling very shortly to get him on and talk about I Prevail, because their album Trauma, yeah, that's kind of the big one that came out this week for us. We're going to be talking about a couple more that somebody brought up to our attention, but that's the one I really want to talk about because that is more my style of music, our style of music, and I have to talk about it. I cannot stress that enough. So before we get going on that call, of course, a little thing I want to say. If it sounds like I'm a little bit nasally or, my voice doesn't sound like it normally does, I am battling a cold right now. Yes, we're battling hard. So I gotta just let you know that, because if it sounds, oh, he sounds nasally, like this kind of nasally. Yeah, I do. I've got a head cold, guys. I'm sorry about it. So let's get it right on into it. The album I was looking forward to this week coming out was the I Prevail album, Trauma. Now, before the album dropped, they released 3 singles, Bow Down, Breaking Down, and Paranoid. And I was a little curious about this album, mostly because I liked what Bow Down had, and I didn't really like what Breaking Down had. And I was a little bit on the in-between, in and out when it came to Paranoid. But I'll get into all that a little bit later. So our guest today is Silverline Motherfucker, as he's known on Instagram, or that's what I call him because his tag is at @silver_line_MF, so I could pretty much understand what the MF is for. His name's Jacob, and he wanted to be on the show to talk about I Prevail. So, without further ado, shall I give him a call? Let's see if I can work my phone. Hopefully it still works. Do I have that turned up? Yeah, I do. Okay, we're giving him a call. We'll see what happens. The phone is ringing, folks. Do.
Hello, how's it going?
Hey, Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 to Today. Are you in that hot tub that you told me about right now?
I am.
You lucky bastard.
Oh, yeah.
At least you got some kind of nice weather. Right now I'm dealing with, it's trying to be spring out over here. I mean, it's 37 degrees outside? So.
Yeah, it's just 47 here.
Where are you from, man?
I am Jefferson City, Tennessee. It's out of Knoxville.
Oh, okay. I was supposed to, when I was a kid, my dad was supposed to move my family and I to Knoxville to go for work, but the place that he worked at never opened up their plant in Knoxville, so I've stayed here in Milwaukee this whole entire time.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but let's cut right to the chase, because the reason I brought you on, or wanted to have you on, is because of the new I Prevail album that came out on Friday, March 29th. Yeah, 29th. Otherwise, I was going to mess up my dates. So, let's talk about it, man. Overall, with I Prevail, what do you think?
The album overall, I mean, I liked it. There was some good songs on there. There was some that were kind of different than, I guess, their usual style. But I'd say overall, I like the album. Pretty good.
I was gonna say overall, I was a little bit split on the album, mostly because I mean, for my YouTube reviews, I look at each song and I kind of go over each one. So I do agree with you where there are some songs where it's this is definitely I Prevail, but there are some that I thought, wait, what the hell is going on, guys? And the first one I want to bring up with that one is Every Time You Leave, because I think that was the one that had featured some female pop artist. And I listened to that and I thought, this is not something I really expected to hear, nor want to hear from bands at all within like the metalcore genre.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I was kind of iffy about. That one, see, I Don't Belong Here. That one too.
I Don't Belong Here, I think the only reason it worked on this album was because of the fact that it was at the end of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Especially listening to it all the way through, I thought, you know what? If this is the only place that this song could actually work.
Yeah. Overall, I liked Gasoline was really good.
So I want to take a look at my notes that I wrote down. Gasoline was something that I was hoping for with them, along with what song was it? Dead Weight. Because when I first listening through with I Prevail, first thing I heard was, I listened to a lot of their stuff beforehand just so I could get a full-on grasp of what they were doing. And listening to the Lifelines album, I was a little concerned, especially after that first release and when they made it big with the cover of Blank Space.
Yeah. Feels like a long time ago.
I mean, it was, 5 years ago already?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Man, did time fly by on that one? Shoot, I can remember that one like it was like 2 years ago.
Right.
Jeez. But,
I like
what were you going to say? My bad.
Song too.
Do you mind
repeating? You're good. I like the Dead song too. It's pretty good.
The Dead Weight, yeah, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot faster pace, and it was that classic metalcore build where you had the unclean vocals from Eric and the more rapid pace, heavy instrumentation during the verses. But then the chorus, you kind of had the clean vocals from Brian and the more of like a hard rock kind of sound from the guitars, the drums, everything.
It fit in with some of their previous songs.
Oh yeah, it did.
And their kind of style.
I got to ask a question on this song, because this song I'm really interested to see what you have to say about. What about Hurricane?
I liked Hurricane. I thought it was okay myself. It was one that I saved in my playlist.
It was. I would have to agree with you on that one. I actually really liked Hurricane. It's definitely in contention, and it might honestly be, if I had to pick a best song on Trauma, it would definitely be Hurricane in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I thought of that was because when you're looking at Hurricane, it goes through a bunch of different stylistic changes throughout the song. At first, it kind of starts out with an intro that I really wanted to just pass by because it reminded me a lot of what Bring Me the Horizon did throughout the whole Amo album. And, well, let's just say I really didn't care for any of that shit.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what
Bring
about...
Me the Horizon album. I only liked 3 songs off of it.
I think, yeah, because if I'm trying to think from Amo, I know I liked Mantra. I like Mantra a lot. And then Wonderful Life I was kind of okay on. I think there was one more in there that I thought was all right, but otherwise I just was shaking my head while listening to that whole entire album. I thought, what are they doing?
Yeah, I was disappointed. But overall, Hurricane, I liked it a lot. Dead on Arrival kind of wasn't the best either.
I thought with Dead on Arrival, one thing they kind of did was they had I want to say they had an experimentation with a different kind of style of like new metal music, kind of like if they did a song based on the style of Papa Roach, but in a slower version. So for me, I like Papa Roach, so I'm like, okay, I kind of could get into it, but it wasn't something that I could really get into much like I could a song like Hurricane or Bow Down.
I agree with that, yeah. I'm a huge Papa Roach fan, too.
Oh, man, have you ever seen him in concert before?
Yeah, I did just a few weeks ago.
Oh, was that with the Asking Alexandria and Shinedown one? Totally forgot about that. What'd you think of that show?
It's been my favorite show so far. I loved that show.
Really, that's a lot of high praise right there.
Uh, Jacoby Shaddix, he was amazing. He was a great entertainer.
I'll say the one time I've seen them play live was back in 2017. They opened up for Rise Against, so of course, I'm going there just because I really want to see
Hmm.
Rise Against for I think that was like the sixth or seventh time, honestly.
Hmm.
But I want to go see Papa Roach because they're one of my top 10 bands, and watching Jacoby Shaddix perform was, I mean, it was comical at points, but it was something where if you didn't like the music, just watching him perform up there was definitely worth the price of admission.
Yeah, he's very energetic.
I think the only
He bring
guy I've seen match that kind of energy from Jacoby, like in the same style, would be John Cooper of Skillet.
right. I saw him live too, and I thought he did very great too. Uh, Now I saw him at Winter Jam. That was the only reason why I went to Winter Jam when it came to Knoxville. Um, but nonetheless, he still played great, even though it was a Christian show.
Yeah, because I just saw them. I think was it last week or about a week and a half ago because they were playing with Under Oath and Breaking Benjamin, and I gotta say, Skillet actually out of the three bands they won the show. It was
Did they
just
really?
yeah, it was. I mean, it was just the energy. It was when you start out with Under Oath, you're going to get a certain kind of energy from them. But a lot of the fans weren't really into it because it was pretty much split between Breaking Benjamin fans and Skillet fans. But then when Skillet comes on, they just played with a certain energy that Breaking Benjamin's not going to match just due to stylistic preferences.
I mean, did Breaking Benjamin play good?
Yeah, I really enjoyed them. It's just when it comes to it when you've got a band that's really gonna up the energy like
Hmm.
Skillet did, and then here comes Breaking Benjamin because they're a lot. I would say they're a lot more melodic in their kind of rock, especially in compared to what Skillet was doing. It
Yeah,
just it's just kind of that energy level. Just when it kind of starts draining backwards, you can't really get fully into the show. It it was still a great show for Breaking Benjamin, but it just in terms of feel something just wasn't missing after trying to
yeah,
follow the energy that Skillet put out.
yeah. Fair enough. More of just performing and not interacting with the crowd as much. Or
Well, I mean, Ben Burnley was interacting with the crowd a whole bunch. It was, I think,
okay,
right after their first song, he pulled some kid that was right up against the rail, put him up on stage for the rest of the show.
uh, lucky kid.
I know. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
What
I'd
else?
like to sign up for that.
Yeah, it's like that's when you got to start bringing little kids to shows so you can get them up. You can get up on stage with them.
There's somebody I want to see live someday.
Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah, I've never seen him.
It's definitely worth it because I've seen them twice, and the first time I saw them was actually they did an unplugged set, which was something I wasn't expecting from them at all.
Hmm.
But they still
That's
sounded
yeah,
just as fantastic.
fair enough. I may go on YouTube and look at it. Unplugged concert from him.
If I remember correctly, because I had a friend who went to the Unplugged show in Minneapolis the day after they were in Milwaukee. They played Dance with the Devil, and they had a special guest come out and sing, and it was Adam Gontier.
Okay.
I know that video's on YouTube, so if you want to go check that one out when you're done with this, I would definitely suggest it.
Yeah, that might be something interesting.
Yeah, but I want to jump back to Trauma right now, just because I think that was again the main reason why I wanted to have you on here. If you had to pick a song from the album that was your absolute favorite, what would you go with?
Um, I'm gonna say it's gonna probably be Bow Down. That's probably been my favorite. Gasoline is a close second.
All right, why Bow Down over Gasoline?
I don't know. I just loved the song. Um, it's been a few years since they produced any new music, and of course, Brian went through the vocal surgery, so I thought it was pretty fitting song to come back from and release first. And then overall, I just liked how hard it was. I love Eric screaming.
There was something with this album that after I listened to after like basically their first two full releases and then Trauma, when I listened to the first two full releases, the one thing I could really pick out in that whole entire venture was the band's ability to stylistically and tempo-wise switch between different styles, different paces, different tempos throughout their songs. However, when it came to the vocals, again, this is the first two releases. This is pre-Trauma. The vocals seem to kind of just lack a certain pop or a certain distinction from a lot of other bands. So it kind of sounded more run-of-the-mill to me. But that was before this album came out, and I kind of want to get your take on that. What would you think about something like that?
I can see that. Which, yeah, previously before this album, they were kind of one style. Didn't really switch up as much. I can definitely see that take on it. I'd probably agree with it to a point.
Yeah, but then after listening to the whole Trauma album, specifically with songs like Bow Down and Gasoline, Hurricane, Dead Weight, and some of the ones that aren't necessarily that big in there, like Low, maybe even some like Let Me Be Sad. One thing I noticed was it was kind of like the reverse happened, where they did have times where the band stylistically and tempo-wise were switching it up, but it just didn't seem to, at times, work as well as some of the other ones did.
Yeah, I can
However,
see that.
the vocals seem to have a certain distinction that they'd been lacking from the previous releases.
I can definitely see that. You said your favorite song off of it was probably was it Dead Weight?
It was
Hurricane.
It's either Hurricane or Bow Down, and I kind of got to go with Hurricane because of how I just love how the vocals all mesh together with each other, and especially with the differences that they went through with different styles and tempos, because I mean they went all over the board with that one. For a moment I thought it was like, this is kind of interesting, because I wasn't a fan of the intro, but then when they went to the chorus it kind of had this pop punk style. But then for the bridge of the song, they went all metalcore with Eric's unclean vocals, and I thought, oh my god, this is fantastic.
I really liked that song. I've got to listen to him more, of course. Ask me again after a few weeks and see which one's my favorite at that point.
I'll probably ask you again in about a month or so just to see where we're at, because, I mean, there's, of course, other new music that's always coming out. And
oh, yeah.
There were a couple other albums I had listened to that came out on the 29th as well, because I wanted to see kind of where they stacked up as, who wins the day. And out of all the albums I listened to, it was clearly I Prevail.
Is there any other noticeable albums that came out?
A couple people sent me to listen to The Main's new album. I got sent over to Whitechapel's new album, and then Billie Eilish's new album. So I'm like, okay, I'll give a listen. And of course, The Main is way too kind of alt pop rock for me. Whitechapel is just straight deathcore, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I listened to it. And then I listened to Billie Eilish. I thought, wait, what the hell is this? It just sounded something that was way too... I'm not even sure if saying it's too, like, indie millennial is the right word.
I listened to a song or two from that album, and nothing for me. It was odd.
I know there's people out there that really like it or are really liking her music, and I just it's something that I get why people are into her music, because I've seen it happen before with certain artists, but it's just something that's not for me.
Yeah. Like they've got I was looking through the Spotify top charts, and they had several songs up there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason is because more of the younger generations, like even younger than myself, so kids that are in high school, I think, are really getting into that kind of music at the moment. Because again, it's something different. And from what I've seen, those are the people that really sent me listen to the Billie Eilish album.
Fair enough. I may have to explore it more, but nothing I can see myself enjoying.
Yeah, so I got a couple other questions for you in regards to the I Prevail album. So how about this? On a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, 0 being Maroon 5, 10 being Bohemian Rhapsody, not the movie, the song, where would you rate the I Prevail album on?
I would say probably a 7. That would probably be my number.
Alrighty, because oddly enough, I totally agree with you on that.
Because it's not been the best that I've heard, the best album that I see, but it's been a lot better than some other stuff that's come out lately.
That is true. I was listening to it, and so far, I think it would be, in my opinion, the second best album so far that I've heard this year. The only one I could put really above it right now is that came out in 2019 is Strength in Numbers by the Fever 333.
I still haven't listened to them.
Oh, that thing! It basically it's much faster paced, much harder, modern version of Rage Against the Machine, and it's something that I'm not the biggest fan of, just listening to that kind of music, just because, or basically their kind of style, due to the fact that it gets so overtly political that I just kind of just get drawn out of it. But if I just stick and listen to the music, geez, then those guys play.
Have you seen them live or planning to?
I was trying to, but the two shows I could have gone to see them play live because they were opening for Bring Me the Horizon. This was right after the Amo release, and actually, coincidentally, right after the Strength in Numbers release. I could have seen them either in Minneapolis or in Chicago. The problem was they were in Minneapolis on like a Thursday, and they were in Chicago on a Tuesday, and working a full-time job outside of, doing all this stuff. I just didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Which kind of sucks because I would love to see more shows around. I could love to see more shows a little bit further away from me, like going to Chicago or going back to Minneapolis. But I'm kind of stuck where I'm at. What was that?
Or coming to Knoxville.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a trek. But I actually have someone who wants to, who's got tickets, and he's like, "Oh, you want to go see a show with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, yeah. Who is it and where is it?" I don't remember what day it is, but it's a show. It's in Ohio, and they're going to see A Day to Remember. I'm like, if it's a weekend, I'll totally go. But if it's, like a Wednesday, maybe not.
Yeah, that'll be iffy.
Just a little bit iffy. But in terms of I Prevail, do you think that where do you think that this album's going to end up leading the band? Because every time a band comes out with new music, of course, you're going to get all the critics, you're going to get all the fans thinking, where are you going to go with this? So where do you think their trajectory is going to take them from the release of Trauma?
I think it's going to, at least boost them as a band overall and boost them among fans. As far as their direction, I don't know how they're going to go. There's been a lot of bands that have, when they've produced their new album the last couple years, has been completely different than what most expect. This one wasn't just the same as that.
I can kind of see where you can kind of put that into that certain kind of a realm, just because they did experiment with a lot of different styles, a lot of different songs. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. I think in the end, more of them kind of worked than didn't work.
Right, however, I agree with that.
However, it's always still a concern because with the ones that we think didn't work, like Rise Above It and Every Time You Leave, or something like I Don't Belong Here.
Mm-hmm.
Those could become pop radio darlings, and then the band could completely go all Bring Me the Horizon on us.
Yeah. Good for them if that's the direction they want to go. As a fan of their rock, I would rather them not. But I'd support them if that's how they went.
And I totally understand. I totally understand that too, because if you're a fan of the band, of course you're going to support them with what they do. But even if you sometimes don't necessarily agree with the direction of the music that they're going in. However, and there's very few bands that, they have this certain style that is perfectly theirs and they stick to it and just create great music for many, many years and just keep rolling with it. There are very few that do that.
For sure.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what bands are like that. And the one that always comes to mind for me like that, of course, is going to be Rise Against.
Yeah, they're one. I would say Five Finger Death Punch still too.
I would agree with you on that one. I know their latest album, And Justice for None, didn't do as well as a lot of people thought they would, but their style was still the exact same, just that hard, heavy metal, and Ivan Moody still just belting it out like he always does.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna see them live last year, but so I was gonna go to Louder Than Life in Louisville, Kentucky. However, the show was canceled.
Why did they cancel that show?
It had been flooding the whole week before, and they were worried they wouldn't be able to get the. It was an outdoor festival.
Ah, okay, I see what you mean.
There was a load of bands I was going to get to see. I was very excited because Breaking Benjamin was going to be there, Shinedown, which I did get to see them recently, but see, there's some other bands that was going to be there. Can't even think of them now.
Well, I mean, just try again this year because there might be a slew of bands going to certain music festivals this year too. Because I know for me, I looked at some of the lineups and I thought, my God, but they're great lineups, but I don't even know if I'm able to get to those shows, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know. Well, like here where I'm at in Tennessee, there's like not any big music festivals. The closest ones near me is Louisville, Kentucky, or I know there's a Carolina Rebellion. Other than those two, there's not really any around here, which is disappointing.
I know up by me, we usually have a good couple just due to the fact that Chicago always has. I think they have it with Riot Fest this year. I know they have System of a Down playing, which would be awesome to go see, but I don't think I'd be able to swing that ticket at the moment. Otherwise, I mean, we got Summerfest, which has become more of a end up becoming more pop and country instead of rock. But I've seen a lot of great bands at Summerfest here in Milwaukee. Otherwise, I know they canceled Northern Invasion this year, which kind of stunk. But we've got Rockfest and Rock USA. Unfortunately for those, they're both on the exact same weekend. So it's like, you got to be kidding me, guys. Why on the exact same weekend would you have two rock festivals? One in like about eastern Wisconsin and one in central Wisconsin. It just doesn't make sense.
That's kind of pointless. At least separate them a weekend.
Yeah, let me go to both shows. Come on, guys.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. That's kind of disappointing on your end.
It is, just because of the fact that I really want to see some of these shows, but a lot of the times now, if I'm going to end up trying to go and watch a show, what's going to end up having to happen is I'm going to have to see them, when they're on tour or something. That's going to cost a lot more money. Just because, I mean, the Breaking Benjamin Skillet and Under Oath, that was, $40-some a ticket. Seeing Disturbed in 3 Days Grace, I paid like 90 or 95 or something like that. I know I've got Rise Against coming up. I've got Motionless in White and Atreyu in the same show, and Seven Dust and In This Moment coming up within the next month and a half. So we'll see how that goes. But just if I could see them all, if I could see it at a festival, pay a certain, pay like, for one of them I paid, for one show I paid $50 for one night. I end up seeing Thrice, Stone Sour, and Rise Against.
That's not bad at all.
No, and I could have gone the next day too to see Five Finger Death Punch, but I just really didn't feel like going back, which kind of stunk because I should have gone to see Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see them someday.
I mean,
I'm waiting. Go ahead.
Oh, I say they come out with a new album like that. They come out with a new album more consistently than other bands, so of course they're gonna end up going on tour probably the next year and a half again.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully they'll be at the Loud and Live Festival again. I'm waiting on that lineup to get announced.
I know I'm still waiting for the Summerfest lineup to get announced just because I just want to see if they have any surprises. And basically by surprises is I'm waiting to see if Rise Against comes back.
Number one band there.
Oh, easily.
I was in a big Rise Against mood for a year or two ago, but for like a solid 4 or 5 months.
Was that right after they came out with the Wolves album?
Well, I think it started right before, and then that album came out, and it just kind of continued.
Understandable. That was a great album in my opinion. It kind of brought them back after the kind of the lull that the black market was. But then all of a sudden here comes Wolves, and it just sounded fantastic. And I just thought, this is some good shit.
I liked the album. I liked it really well. I liked the violence, and I liked Bullshit and Morning in America. I thought that one was good too.
Morning in America was one of the more interesting tracks on that because it stylistically, from an instrumentation standpoint, it really didn't have that certain Rise Against feel, but Tim's vocals and just the lyrics behind it were so much more overpowering. That's what made that song.
Right. It was a little off from their style, but I thought it was really good.
I still say this. I say this to everybody when I talk about that album. It's Miracle, which is the last song on the album, is the most underrated Rise Against song of all time. No one talks about it, and it is one of the best tracks I've heard.
I like that song. I've got it on my playlist too.
It's a good song to have in your playlist, man.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the Ghost Note symphonies as much though.
That I was really curious when they were gonna come out with that. Just I want to see what they would do, but it was one of the more interesting projects because they didn't just do acoustic versions of their songs. They kind of changed up some certain things, but still kept the song's complete integrity. Basically, what they changed up was maybe just the mood that they try to invoke, and then the tempo of certain songs. Because Savior's a little bit slower. House on Fire is a little bit slower. Voices Off Camera, they use a ukulele, which I was really interested at. I was like, wow, they're doing that? That's sick. I know when I go see them in Chicago at the end of April, they're just doing a Ghost Note Symphony tour, so I'm curious to see what they actually do with that.
That'd be pretty cool. So you've just saw them normally so far, you're 6 or 8 times.
I've seen them play just regular Rise Against 7 times, and 7 times I've been impressed with what they've done. They just put on a killer show.
Maybe next time they come to Knoxville, I'll give them a shot.
I would highly suggest it, man. I'd highly suggest it. Anyway, outside of that, because I'm just taking a look at how long we've been talking, we're almost at a half hour here. So I would say, do you have any parting words, or if any other things you want to talk about while I have you on here?
Not on the top of my head.
Well, if anything comes to your head, anytime when I shoot this, I'd love to have you back on as a guest, as you've been the second guest ever on the Chord Progression podcast. And
Woo-hoo.
I do want to say this because I have you on here and I can actually, say this, even though it's not face to face, it's phone to phone. I want to say thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting the podcast and the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day project, and always joining in on our live streams because that means a whole lot to me, and I really wanted to say that personally to you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. You do a great job with the account.
Well, thanks, man. I just hope I can keep building a community around it of rock music fans, of people that just love the music and just can talk about it, and not just talk about it like, oh, everyone has to be positive about the music. If an album sucks, I mean say it. I want to hear it.
We blast it.
Hell, I'll say it too if it sucks.
It's nice to have a page to talk about that.
Yeah, because there was one time I was trying to promote my page on another one, and they said they didn't want to because the most recent post I made at that time was I was asking everybody what band do they think has sold out at that point, and they're like, oh, we don't we only want to shed bands in a positive light. We don't want to we don't like talking about selling out. That goes against what we are. I'm just like, well, then how are you gonna know what the people think?
Yeah,
it made no sense to me, but I'm that's basically what I wanted the channel to be, and that's what it's becoming, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey man, you're welcome.
Alrighty, do you have I'm gonna ask you this, do you have any shameless plugs you want to plug? Just anything you want to say, because usually at the beginning of this I do my shameless plugs where I just say everything that we're on. Nope.
Sorry, I had somebody holler at me. Shameless plugs. Is that just anything to rant about?
No, basically, it's just because when I start out my show or when I start out the show, I always do this thing call my shameless plugs, where I say, follow the page on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel, add the Alexa skill on your Alexa skill set, that kind of stuff.
Oh, y'all can follow me on Instagram.
Alrighty, and where can they find you on Instagram? Even though I know where to find you, but I want to have you say it.
Y'all can follow me at silver_lion_mf.
Alrighty.
Or motherfucker.
Then I did get it right whenever I say silver line, motherfucker. Woohoo!
That way works too.
Alrighty, I will definitely make sure that is in the show notes, because then people can go and click on that and follow your stuff. So, again, Jake, thank you for being on the podcast. It means a lot to me. I hope to have you on once again, and I'm glad you're a part of this community. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you too, man.
Alrighty, man. You keep enjoying that hot tub, and you have yourself a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty, friends, so that was Jake, a.k.a. @silver_lion, motherfucker, or MF. So, again, I'm not going to go into trauma anymore, except saying that I think for all the music that came out on March 29th, 2019, in terms of album-wise, they did it the best, and that they won the day. If you want to see my full review on each song and how the album is as a whole, and just kind of everything that I do, please go to our YouTube page, My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 Today, because on Wednesday, because today is April 2nd, Wednesday, April 3rd, around 8 p.m., that video is going to drop, and you can see my whole entire thoughts. Now, let's talk about some of the other music that came out this week, because I've got Whitechapel, who our friend at the Corey Kid said, hey man, you gotta take a listen to it, and I did. He was gonna send me a synopsis, and I'll do something with the synopsis. I was gonna read it on the podcast, but by the time I'm shooting this, he didn't send it to me, but I will find a way to put that out there for you guys, because Whitechapel's new album was not something that I liked, and this isn't based on their music or what the music was, or if I thought that just stunk. It's just stylistically what their music is not something that I really get into and really could critique very well, because they're basically deathcore. That's the best way to put it. Maybe, hard or just really heavy metal. You hear those super heavy screams instead of the it's more the whole entire song. And the whole entire album, I really didn't care for it that much. But that's just because I don't care for that style of music. Even the chorus, it was more screaming. And I can only take so much screaming. That's just me. And the reason why I wanted to read what the Corey Kid had to say was because he likes that stuff. And I wanted to get someone who could really give a great review on it, or give a great take on it, to really give us what we needed and tell us what we needed. Because he's going to give us the proper review. I didn't think I was going to be able to, so I'm not going to go fully into it. And the difference is why I actually like metalcore more than this, because metalcore, yeah, you're going to get the verses that are the rapid pace instrumentation, the hard instrumentation, and those unclean vocals. But then usually in the chorus, you get the clean vocals, a little bit of a slower hard rock kind of instrumentation and pace. And I absolutely love it, and I love the mix. It's just when it's all screaming and all the throat screams, I just can't get into it that much. But if you're a huge heavy metal fan, huge death metal fan, listen to Whitechapel's new album. It's called The Valley. Came out on March 29th, 2019, and I want to see what you guys have to say about it. So, yeah, let's see what you have to say. Also, other new album that came out today that I know our friend Evie was telling me about, and I had to go check it out. I mentioned earlier with Jake was Billie Eilish's new album. Now, I can't stand that music. That's just not something that's me. I was talking about Rise Against with Jake. I was talking about Breaking Benjamin, Shinedown, Five Finger Death Punch. We're talking I Prevail. So you kind of and you guys know throughout all of this what my taste in music is. You really understand it if you follow the page, listen to the podcast, look at the YouTube channel at all. I mean, by page, I mean Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So you guys know exactly what I like. Billie Eilish's music is not something that I am really going to, get into. However, I do understand why people like it and why people think it is good, because it is something that is not, I would say, around a lot. It's not something that's been seen in a while. When I listened to it, it had this certain, indie psychedelic kind of tone to it that'd be fitting for pop music. And I thought, you know, if you're going to look at someone like this who has a voice like this, who has a style like this, who's really coming into their own, I have to look back about 6-7 years ago when Lorde first hit the scene, because everyone was saying the same thing. It's, oh, she's got this certain vibrato, this certain style. That's why people love her, because she's just different. And then Lorde kind of went more pop. But then that's kind of what I see what happens with Billie Eilish, is she's got this certain sound. If she can stick to it, yeah, she's going to become very popular. There's no doubt in my mind that she will. Because the kids love her. There's people my age. Yes, you know, the younger millennials in your early 20s. Yeah, I know people that love her. I know older people that are starting to get into her as well. I just can't, because that is not my style of music. However, I can see where a lot of people do like that style of music, because it is different. It is honestly a little relaxing. And songs are kind of well constructed for her own style. I can see why people like it. I just don't. One other thing I want to talk about with you guys is I have currently, throughout this whole entire podcast, because yes, I was shooting in my bedroom. Mostly because of the fact that I usually shoot this in a basement. However, when I call, I have to shoot somewhere else because my phone don't get reception in no basement. On the TV in my bedroom, I've been watching the Motley Crue movie, The Dirt, on Netflix. I watched it once. I watched it twice. I've got it on for the third time, because I got to talk about it with you guys, and I want to talk about movies when it regards to rock music and just some stuff about that. So, why don't we just jump on into it? So, we know that these musical movies about, you know, very eccentric bands or very eccentric entertainers or artists are going to start becoming popular. It happened with superheroes when I'll say this, when Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, when that kind of started all where superhero movies could be cool. It then went into where because then it went to the Batman with Christian Bale, and then once Iron Man hit and started the MCU, you know, superhero movies are the whole entire thing. All you see are superhero movies and remakes. Gotta take off my hat. However, now I see the same thing happening with bands, musical artists, everything. It started out with Bohemian Rhapsody and Rami Malek winning the Academy Award for Best Actor is definitely going to be a start, especially because of how successful Bohemian Rhapsody was. An Elton John movie is in the works and is set for release. But then Netflix came out with The Dirt right before that with all about Motley Crue. And yeah, the acting was kind of cheesy at points, I'm not going to lie. MGK playing Tommy Lee was something I wasn't expecting, but I kind of did like it where it was a little bit more erratic. However, let's just get into my whole hot take of the movie. Did I enjoy this movie? Hell yeah, I enjoyed this movie. Because it didn't really leave anything out, and it didn't, and when I say is embellished, it didn't, I mean, embellish, you know, a good amount, but I think that's just because of the fact that it didn't have to. That's actually the shit that went down. And let's start from the start. And one thing I really liked from the start was, you know, the band was basically formed with Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee, and it really went into their childhood. Well, it went deep into Nikki Sixx's childhood. Not that deep, but with what happened with his father, all the stepfathers, and him trying to chase down some stuff. Then meeting up with with Tommy Lee, and taking it from there. And I love how it went into each character in the movie, or each member of the band, I should say. And didn't really leave out any certain, I mean, they probably left out a lot, but they really put in a lot of details that really get you in with the band. So let's start out with Vince Neil, because Vince Neil is one that I got to start out with. When at the beginning of the movie, he's talking about how he didn't want to join a band to get laid and not to, you know, make great music or be famous or anything. You see that throughout the whole entire movie. That's all the guy wants to do is, when they go with sex, drugs, and rock and roll, yeah, it's all the sex part for him. And in straight up honesty. That's all you see. You see him with cheating on his girlfriend. You see him with his wife, they're just going at it. I mean, he married a stripper. And just how his life all revolved around getting laid. which was Vince Neil, though. Or it still probably is, honestly, but it really just got into that as a whole. Now let's go into later on in the movie because it really shows how Vince Neil, yeah, he did all that stuff, but one thing that was as consistent was his daughter. And you can really see the emotion from probably what he went through when his daughter got cancer and passed away. That was something that was, I really enjoyed how they put that together. I really enjoyed they put that in the movie because it gives Vince Neil's character and Vince Neil as a whole a certain identity that really helps people resonate with him. Yeah, where, he was this fun guy and he kind of seemed like an asshole, but the dude's still a father and he really cared about his daughter. That was one thing I really did enjoy in this movie when it came to Vince Neil. I'm going to go to Mick Mars next, the lead guitarist. And the one thing I loved about with him is he's the guy that didn't take any crap. It just always had a drink in his hand, kind of like Julian from Trailer Park Boys, and I thought that was pretty cool. And just going from there, just how he's just kind of saying, yeah, I'm an old man, just kind of going off of that. He really just made basically, he was the outlier of the group. He was the outlier when it comes to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He was the one that was about rock and roll. That's what he was about. And that's one thing I really liked about how they portrayed Mick Mars in this. So now who I go to next? I got Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx, who I think are the two most, of course, important characters in this movie, but they are the biggest characters in this movie. So let's start with, they really go into Nikki Sixx a lot more. So let's start with Tommy Lee. So the things I loved about Tommy Lee in this one were, even though, he played by MGK, I kind of have like MGK at times, I kind of don't, but when it comes to him playing Tommy Lee, I think he did an alright job. Acting kind of cheesy at points, but I think he did an alright job. The biggest thing I enjoyed about Tommy Lee where they went into this was his relationships with women, because, he's got the high-profile relationships with women, Heather Locklear, which they went into. They didn't go anything with Pam Anderson, though, which I was a little confused by, because I thought they would definitely go into something with that. Due to the fact that, the Pam Anderson sex tape kind of kickstarted online porn. Not gonna kid on that one. They pretty much did. It was a huge thing. But let's just go to the other relationships they showed. It was his first relationship with, I think her name was Roxy in the movie. I'm not even sure what her real name actually was. But how Nikki, how she cheated on Tommy with Nikki right as Tommy was bringing his parents around and introducing her to his parents. And Tommy's mom called her a groupie, and there was the whole entire fight scene, or the domestic violence scene, I should say, because that's basically what it ended up being. On the tour bus, they kicked her out because she kept calling Tommy's mom some pretty egregious names I just don't feel like repeating at the moment. Just don't. And then the relationship with Heather Locklear, where it kind of had out to this good start, this hot start. The wedding was an absolute mess, and it was mostly a mess due to Nikki Sixx, which I will go into in a moment. Yet, then the breakup, how it affected Tommy Lee, I think that was really done really well. Now we're going to jump into Nikki Sixx, the whole entire Nikki Sixx thing. And the one best thing I enjoyed about with Nikki Sixx was all about the drugs. I mean, literally all about the drugs. His consistent coke use throughout the movie was running rampant. And then when they talked about heroin, they talked about why he started doing heroin, because of how bad of a childhood he had. And it was a thing that made him feel warm and, together inside and loved because he was taking heroin. And then he just, got addicted, just overdose, then to the point where he died and got revived back in a ambulance. And the scene where he gets revived back in the ambulance, that is one of the most interesting scenes I've seen in a movie in a while, just because I love the paramedic who brings him back to life, because when he sticks the second shot of adrenaline in Nikki's heart and he pops up and goes, what the hell happened? Or like we said, where the hell am I? And the paramedic is so excited and he high-fives the other paramedic. Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I'm like, yeah, there we go. I'm a big fan of this. Loved it. And they didn't really leave anything out there, I don't think, at least, because they really showed how Nikki devolved during his use of drugs. I mean, he was shooting up at Heather and Tommy's wedding, and you take a look at the picture and in the movie, you take a look at what had happened during the wedding. I mean, he couldn't even stand up straight. He was zonked out of his mind. And I loved how they kind of just went into each of the members' fallacies. Tommy Lee with his relationships with women and his drug use, which I'll get to in a moment. Nikki Sixx's insane drug use. Vince Neil's love for women and sex, and Mick Mars's being old and loving saying that he was old. Now, when it comes to Tommy Lee and his drug use, this is something I have to transition to because when they going through the day in the life of Tommy Lee on tour back in like the late 80s, so I think 86, 87, 88, when they go through that, this is before the Dr. Feelgood tour, when they go through that whole entire expose, oh my God, I love that. It reminded me of a freaking Scorsese movie, and how some of these scenes were shot reminded me of a Scorsese movie. But let's get to what Tommy Lee's day first, because it was something absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I loved everything about it, where it's wake up at 5, handcuffed to the bed, 5 p.m. actually, handcuffed to the bed, start taking some drugs, get to the show, and then let the adrenaline kind of take over during the show so you can still perform. All of a sudden, they get on the plane, he starts doing drugs, starts drinking. When they land the plane, they go to the nearest strip club, just blow a lot of money. Then they go to the hotel room, and Tommy Lee just trashes the entire hotel room. And their manager ends up having to handcuff him to the bed, and this just happens all day, every day, all over again. I love that whole entire scene, how it was put together, because it reminded me of a Scorsese film. There are other times where it reminded me of a Scorsese film. When the band first did their first show, and they got in a huge fight, I loved how they did that as well. It reminded me of something that you'd see in, at the end of Goodfellas, when Ray Liotta is walking and saying, now it's all over. It reminded me a lot of what they did with The Wolf of Wall Street, or what they did with The Big Short with certain cutaways. It reminded me a lot of that. And some of the other crazy stories that I love that they went off of was the blowjob table, where they'd be sitting down at a table. The guy that's signed to Electric Records is played by Pete Davidson in this movie, goes to sit down and gets scared because Vince Neil is getting blown underneath the table. Followed by when one of the drummer, I forgot who he was, but he comes down and gets scared as well. But then, he embellishes. Pete Davidson's character didn't. Also, some of the hotel shenanigans that they had were absolutely hilarious, and they put them in the movie, and I'm not even sure if they're real or not, but I love their inclusion. Tommy Lee running around the hotel naked, them booting everybody as they're going up a glass elevator, dropping TVs and furniture on people's cars. I mean, hell yeah, that's rock and roll right there. I love it. This movie is all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and I thought it was something that you really got to watch if you're going to watch it. You have to. However, parental discretion advised, because when I say sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I mean a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, a lot of rock and roll. And they do not hold back. Oh my Lord. Rated R doesn't even describe this movie. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in conjunction with this movie is what happens after this. Because I've got a feeling, especially with the success that Bohemian Rhapsody had, the success The Dirt is having, I'm not sure about what the Elton John movie is going to do, but with the success of these two movies, especially because of how ridiculous some of this stuff is and the fact that these are true stories that they're telling, or they say they're telling true stories. I'm not sure what they're actually embellishing, however, that we can have a potential serious influx of movies about rock bands, metal bands, artists that are just out of this world. We could easily have some stuff like that happen, an influx of movies. I'm trying to think of some that are off the top of my head. AC/DC would be a great addition to something like this, or that would be useful. Same thing with Def Leppard. I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head, some more recent ones that they could definitely go off of. Maybe something with Blink-182, even though they're still kind of touring. They could do something with them. Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm trying to think of some other artists too, but basically the point I'm trying to make is they're probably going to end up going with a lot of pop artists anyway. However, let's just reset this. Movie studios are going to take a look at this stuff, and they're going to see the success of Bohemian Rhapsody and the success of The Dirt. They're going to see it, and it's going to happen, where you're going to get a major influx of biopics about bands and artists just because of some of the crazy stories they can tell. Yes, Bohemian Rhapsody, because you had Freddie Mercury and how eccentric Freddie Mercury was. The crazy sex, drugs, and rock and roll stories are perfect for Motley Crue. I don't know what they're going to do with Elton John because I don't follow Elton John that much. But I'm not sure what kind of crazy stories they can have him tell. Maybe something kind of similar with what they did with Bohemian Rhapsody, but who knows? I just don't want to see a lot of bad movies about bands come out due to this. I don't want to see a lot of B movies just trying to capitalize on this trend. I want to see good movies. think about when Spider-Man kicked off basically the superhero revival. Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire was fantastic. Then Christian Bale's Batman came in and just took it up a notch. And then Iron Man kicks off the MCU, and the Iron Man films were great. Captain America films were good too. I know Thor Ragnarok had a huge positive review. The Avengers movies, Deadpool, Logan. I don't know what else I can go with that, but the thing is I don't want to see a lot of movies about great rock bands that I want to see and want to see their story on the big screen and just have them be complete crap. I don't want to see that. It didn't happen with Queen. It didn't happen with Motley Crue. But I've got a feeling you're going to get a great band in there, and it's going to end up having a movie that's going to be like crap. Like a movie for the Beatles if they do it. Like for the Rolling Stones, The Who, AC/DC, ZZ Top, Van Halen. Some more recent ones. Blink-182. My Chemical Romance. Oh, My Chemical Romance would be actually a really interesting one, especially for people of our, this kind of genre, this kind of era, our time. Due to the fact that band was huge. Now they're not here anymore. I'd love to see that whole entire, revolve around. Love to see what would happen about that. But in the end, let's just enjoy what we have now. Let's just wait and see what happens, but I'm going to be skeptical. And at that, I think we're getting close to like an hour or so. I usually will go as long as I need to, and I feel like I have gone as long as I needed to. So, we got new music. We had new music this week with I Prevail, with Whitechapel, with The Maine, with Billie Eilish. We've had Jacob on the show, who I am more than happy to have him on the show. His Instagram page will be in the show notes. And, of course, I'm happy to have you guys as listeners. So I want to thank you very much. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, whatever, Google Play, because we're on Google Play. And I think we should be on YouTube for this one, too. I hope. I pray. But we'll see what happens. Otherwise, yeah. So, on that note, I want to say thank you all for listening because it means a lot to me that you're listening to my crap. But this ain't crap. This is some good stuff, yo. Next week, we'll see who we can get on as a guest, if I can get a guest on. If not, well, I'll figure out something else. Because I always got stuff I got to talk about. Maybe some more stuff with Slipknot will come out. Who the hell knows? Knows. I think my nose actually did pretty okay. If I sounded nasally throughout the podcast, yeah, I'm a little bit sick, but that's what happens. Alrighty, so again, that's going to be it for me. And should I start the outro? Shoot, do I even have the right button? I don't know my stuff anymore. So, I want to say thank you for listening to my song of the day, Rock 2000 to Today, podcast known as Chord Progression. New episodes every Tuesday for your listening pleasure. And I always end every single thing with this. IGTV channel, Instagram Live, YouTube, and podcasts. Everybody, see ya!